Bitcoin hard forks. Bitcoin is the very first decentralized currency. With more and more users who have adopted Bitcoin, there is more and more congestion of transactions waiting to be confirmed on the blockchain. At present, the Bitcoin network can handle only about 300,000 transactions per day, or 3.5 transactions per second, compared to the thousands of transactions per second for Visa transactions. Bitcoin transactions need 10 minutes to be confirmed, and transactions without any fees, called zero-fee transactions, can end up waiting up to several days to be confirmed, or even face the possibility of being forever stuck in the congestion, as it is expected to happen if adaptation continues to increase. The 10 minutes per block is set by design so that enough time is given for requested transactions to propagate around the network. The 3.5 transactions per second limit is also set by design to allow the smaller miners to better compete with the mining farms. To make this bottleneck even tighter, it is advised to wait for 6 confirmations or 1 hour to be certain that the transactions are permanently on the blockchain. Bitcoin's early developers imposed a cap on the number of transactions that the network could process as a necessary safety measure against potential attackers who could overload the system. They claim that removing the block size limit is a risky move which will leave Bitcoin vulnerable to governments and global banks. Without a limit, large organizations could use their resources to outmuscle smaller miners and effectively take control of the blockchain and Bitcoin itself. The developers are divided on the way to scale the network so that it will accommodate more transactions faster and without needing excessive transaction fees so that it can be more useful for microtransactions. Developers, miners, and other stakeholders are locked in a heated debate over how best to scale the network, with chances steadily rising of irreconcilable differences, causing a so-called hard fork or a permanent divergence of the blockchain that would split Bitcoin in 2 separate coins. Bitcoin software uses free open source code that ensures anyone can freely use it and modify it. The miners can choose to use any version of software to mine blocks of transactions. If they are lucky to be the first to solve the block, then the other miners can decide whether they want to reject his block and deny him his rewards for solving the block, or verify it and accept his block of transactions to be confirmed onto the blockchain. The following are the most important versions of Bitcoin software that are used by the miners. There have been various proposals to increase transaction capacity, but so far, no single proposal has been accepted by the majority of miners. Biccoin Core, the original protocol, continues to be the software that is used by the majority of the miners. It claims that larger block size could benefit larger miners. It favors developing scalability solution off-chain towards other layers and platforms. It claims that a better approach to easing transaction congestion is to make the blockchain more efficient without the centralization and control of the miners. It proposes 2 solutions: segregated witness, called Segwit for short, and off-chain channels called Lightning Network. Segwit uses a method to verify transactions that doubles the transactions per second capacity by separating signatures that validate transactions. Lightning Network, a layer 2 solution, allows for essentially instant confirmations at little or no cost. It promises greater functionality and an off-chain scalability that an on-chain approach would be hard-pressed to match. This solution is viewed by many as the network's best hope for long-term scalability that would allow for instant micropayments for processing billions of transactions per second. This would make possible for any devices or services connected to the internet to be charged or to pay micropayments for pay-as-you-use features as promised by the evolving technology called Internet of Things. Biccoin Core hopes that bandwidth, memory, and computer power will improve with time following Moore's laws that have till now proven to be true. Moore's laws states that computers get cheaper, smaller, and faster with time. For Biccoin Core, the decentralization factor is most important as it is one of the tenets of Bitcoin, that the Bitcoin network works independently of central banks, governments, and established financial systems with no single central source of power or control. Bitcoin XT increases the size limit of each block from 1 megabyte to 8 megabytes. The current 1 megabyte maximum block size in the network was imposed to response to some denial of service attacks. This cap effectively restricts the number of Bitcoin transactions to about 3.5 transactions per second. Visa, by contrast, routinely handles thousands of transactions per second. Bitcoin XT proposes to automatically increase the block size exponentially, doubling every 2 years. Opponents argue that mining larger blocks would require more computing power, thereby discouraging small operators in favor of the massive mining farms that have gradually concentrated the network into fewer and fewer hands. The proposal has not gained the necessary support, and its use has been in steady decline. Bitcoin Classic is less aggressive. At the start, it promoted a single increase of the maximum block size from 1 megabyte to 2 megabytes, but changed to a solution that moved the limit out of the software rules into the hands of the miners. It is an attempt to move the technical governance of the decentralized and independent Bitcoin project from the developers of Biccoin Core to a voting process involving a large community of miners, businesses, developers, and users. The proposal has not gained the necessary support, and its use has been in steady decline. Bitcoin Unlimited claims that the current 1 megabyte block size limit is preventing further adoption of Bitcoin as a digital cash system. It proposes to remove the hard-coded block size limit of 1 megabyte, allowing the miners to dynamically regulate the block size by consensus, in line with user demand and progress of technology, to allow greater number of transactions as Bitcoin adoption increases. This, in effect, gives miners control over what transaction fees users need to give in order for their requested transactions to be included in their block. Requested transactions are listed in a waiting list, with those having the highest fees at the front and those with 0 transaction fees at the back. It is hoped that by regulating the size of the block, transaction fees as low as 20 cents will be able to be put on the block without having to wait. This, they hope, will increase the adoption rate of Bitcoin users and make micropayments more feasible. Opponents to this proposal claim that it gives miners too much control of the network and increases the dangers of centralization of miners. Bitcoin Unlimited, like its predecessor Bitcoin Classic, also seeks to democratize the software development process. The software's lead developer or maintainer is to be elected annually. As of March 2017, around 11% of the nodes ran Bitcoin Unlimited. Once And if 51% of miners switch to Bitcoin Unlimited, then the Biccoin Core blockchain will hard fork, creating two separate coins: BTCs mined by Bitcoin Core miners and BTUs mined by Bitcoin Unlimited miners. Users with unspent coins on the blockchain before the fork will be assigned equal amounts of BTCs and BTUs, in effect doubling their coins. Their BTCs will no doubt fall in value to accommodate the splitting and find a level that accommodates the new valued BTUs as determined by the markets. In 2015, the number of merchants accepting Bitcoin exceeded 100,000. Instead of the 2 to 3% typically imposed by credit card processors, users of Bitcoin are faced with fees in the range from 0 to less than 2%. Visa networks are scaled to do many thousands of transactions per second. Increased fraud accompanies increased transaction rates, and the fraud is tolerated and accepted and priced into the system because it is still more profitable for Visa to have such a high rate of transactions despite the risk of fraud. A chargeback possibility, with customers refusing to pay for services and products they bought with their credit cards that were already delivered to them, is another risk. Merchants take these risks as the paradigm of no risk, no gain holds to be true. Paying by Bitcoin, on the other hand, is like paying with cash, and chargebacks cease to be a risk. Any hard forks in the Bitcoin network that result in implementations that scale the network to make it more attractive for merchants to accept Bitcoin will also make it easier for miners to be involved in double spending scams, which are a type of chargeback fraud. This risk is not of great concern to merchants because miners depend on the overall health of the Bitcoin ecosystem for maximizing their long-term profits. Compromising the network to the point where retail stores stop accepting Bitcoin greatly undermines their long-term interests. If Bitcoin Unlimited or any other proposal ends up hard forking the blockchain and causes the Bitcoins to split, then the users, along with the markets who buy and sell BTCs and who buy and sell their new coins, BTUs, will end up deciding new values for them and will in the end have the power to control the miners. The majority of the miners will end up mining whatever coin is worth more. The users will be ultimately faced by two main questions and choices of which coins they want to support. BTCs, with the slow but sure safety of decentralization, the stability of safe and tested code, but higher transaction fees and slower confirmation times. This will help make BTCs function as digital gold for storing value. Or BTUs, with the faster but more dangerous centralization, an unproven and untested code, but faster confirmation times, more transactions, and lower transaction fees. This will help make BTUs function as digital cash. If both BTCs and BTUs are supported by users, then miners will end up mining two different digital coins, BTCs serving as digital gold and BTUs serving as digital cash.